it still doesn't really like grab me that the last archetype analysis was almost a year ago. That is insane. And the fact that there haven't been any new archetypes from the anime in that long of a time is okay, not completely non-understandable to say the least, but here we are with the Metalmorph archetype with the recent support that turned a very powerful card, overpowered even for its time, into an archetype. The so-called card or archetype, well, archetype more of a less because it does include some monsters, were used by several characters throughout the original Duel Monsters anime, but most notably Keith Howard and Janucci, the protagonist of the show. And yeah, nothing else much to say than just to move on to this. How many cards is it exactly, this archetype? It's 13 card archetype, starting with the original Metalmorph. It's a normal trap which allows you to target a face-up monster on the field and equip this card to it. It gains 300 attack and defense, and if it attacks, it gains half the attack of the attack target during the damage calculation. Yeah, not much else to say. This thing released in 1999 was basically a powerhouse in of itself. And yeah, back row removal was not as present as it was back then. So yeah, this card was a fear factor back then, and a niche tech choice in some very rarely spruced up battle phase oriented decks, which, if there are any, they usually have their own in-engine ways to boost their attacks or to deal high damage. So yeah, it's usually doesn't see any play aside occasionally in this newest batch of support, which came out in Rage of the Abyss. So yeah, I say occasionally because we have several retrains here. The first retrain being Rare Metalmorph. This is a continuous trap unlike its predecessor, and it can only be equipped to a machine type monster on the field this time. And in that machine monster gains 500 attack, and also the first spell effect that would target that monster is negated, and when that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. This is not bad, but it's not good either. If it wasn't limited to machine type monsters, I could legitimately see this card seeing much more competitive play than it used to and does at this very moment, but sadly this limitation practically kills its applicability. However, there is another retrain which pretty much kickstarted this whole archetype, that being Enhanced Metalmorph. You can activate this card by tributing a face-up monster and special summoning a monster that cannot be normal summoned or set and mentions Enhanced Metalmorph from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Then you can equip this card to it as an equip card, with the effect that the equipped monster gains 400 attack and defense. Your opponent cannot target it with spell effects, and also it cannot be destroyed by monster and spell effects, and you can only activate one of these per turn. It's a straight upgrade over the Rare Metalmorph in every single way, although I wish it had something to do with the original one, like the attack gaining effect of the original, because that is pretty much the only thing this thing lacks in order for it to be a very versatile card to build your entire deck around. Still, it's not that bad to be fair, because negating, making it untargetable by spell effects is actually really good, and also preventing destruction from monster and spell effects is also very nice in today's meta game. So yeah, definitely run 3 of these because you pretty much need to these days. Alright, now it's time for the monsters. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing to be focusing on trap cards this early on. But first off, we have Copycat, a level 1 spellcaster with 0 attack and defense, and if this card is summoned, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and this card's attack and defense become equal to that monster's original attack and defense. Yeah, pretty much early on this was a potentially huge beatstick depending on your opponent's loadout, and the only relevance it had is in the very early Synchro era as an OTK enabler in Junk Warrior decks. Nowadays it's not as important because the only importance right now that it has in context of this archetype is that its retrained Metal Copycat serves somewhat of a crucial purpose in this new batch of cards. Same stats, but it's a dark monster this time around, and this card's level is increased by 4 during your opponent's turn only. You can only use each of the following effects of Metal Copycat once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can set one Metalmorph trap from your deck, then you can have one enhanced Metalmorph. Then if you have enhanced Metalmorph in your graveyard, you can draw one card. Then you can declare one a monster type. This card becomes that type until the end of your opponent's turn. The crucial purpose I say that this thing serves is, of course, the level increasing by 4 is actually something that the rest of the archetype needs to, and why is it limited to the opponent's turn? I have no idea. Maybe to encourage quick effect interruptions, maybe? But yeah, also the type changing effect is also crucial because Enhanced Metalmorph requires certain monster types to be targeted, to be targets for, so it can summon certain monsters. So yeah, this thing is usually a 3-off. It's summonable by 1/1, searchable by Rare Arvdao, and yeah, it's pretty much your staple all across the board. Next up we have a normal monster, Zoa, which when equipped with the original Metalmorph, that turns into Metal Zoa, whose only effect is that it can be special summoned from the deck and cannot be normal summoned from or set. And you attribute Zoa equipped with Metalmorph in order to get it, which by the way you should never do due to the fact that it has no additional effects, and pretty much having the original Zoa with the original Metalmorph is way better. However, these two received retrains, first of which being Fiend Beast Zoa. It's a level 7 Fiend with the same stats as the original Zoa. And if your opponent controls a monster, you can normal summon it without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects of Fiend Beast Zoa once per turn. And if this card is in your hand, you can special summon it in defense position. Then if you do not have an enhanced Metalmorph in your graveyard, your opponent can special summon one monster from their hand. During your main phase, you can set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck. It's technically better than the original. I mean, what a shocker, it has an effect while the original had jack shit. Anyway, I don't quite like the drawback of not having Enhanced Metalmorph in your graveyard. It allows the opponent to special summon anything from the hand, which is basically a death sentence. But Foolish Burial Goods exists at least, so you can at least protect yourself that way, in a way of not taking that drawback. But anyway, let's see the retrain of Metal Zoa, that being Metal Zoa X, which is a level 8, with again the same stats as the original Metal Zoa. And it cannot be normal summoned or set, and must first be special summoned with Enhanced Metalmorph by tributing a level 5 or higher Fiend monster. You see. Anyway, you can reveal this card in your hand, set one Metalmorph trap directly from your deck, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. You can only use this effect of Metal Zoa X once per turn, and up to twice per turn when your opponent activates a spell card or effect or a monster effect. Quick effect, you can target one face-up monster they control, destroy it. It has some applicability in some control-based strategies, although one thing I highly find disturbing both about this and the original, like the Fiend Beast Zoa retrain, is that upon setting the Metalmorphs, they cannot be activated during the turn they are set, which sometimes can cause you to miss a lot of chances, which can be crucial in this new set of cards. But it's still far from a bad card, so you obviously considering what it's a retrain of, you max out on it. Also, it's a dark monster and a level 8, so yeah, Allure and Trade-in also work as draw power options, essentially. Our final monster for today is the retrain of Red Eye's Black Metal Dragon, because that's what we need in 2024. That being Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon. It also cannot be normal summoned or set and must first be special summoned with enhanced Metalmorph by attributing a level 5 or higher dragon monster. You can only use each of the following effects of Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon once per turn. You can reveal this card in your hand to set a Metalmorph trap directly from your deck, and if you do, shuffle this card into the deck. When your opponent activates a card or effect, a quick effect, you can negate the activation, then you can inflict damage to them equal to half of one of their attack position monster's original attack. Much like the Metal Zoa retrain, it is a straight upgrade, isn't it? Well, this one even has way more attack than the original Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. It's just, they really wanted to upgrade this for some reason. And also it's searchable by some Red Eyes support due to the fact that it's, again, a Red Eyes monster in name. And again, I also like how these retrains also shuffle themselves into the deck instead of going to the graveyard, which kind of plays into the whole Metalmorph gimmick of gaining you advantage without losing you advantage, or without basically having any sort of cost, which I think for this archetype is kind of necessary. So yeah, this is the definitive boss monster of this new archetype. Anyway, next up we have their only spell card, the normal spell Approaching Machine. Add one monster that mentions Enhanced Metalmorph or one Metalmorph trap from your deck to your hand. If you control a Metalmorph trap, you can manage this card from your graveyard and target one opponent's defense position monster, change it to attack position, and you can only use this effect of Approaching Machine once per turn. You literally run 3 of these only for the first effect and most certainly not for the second effect. I know it's meant to set up high damage numbers, but controlling defense position monsters is very rare in today's meta, so yeah, the second effect is most likely gonna stay a theory throughout most of your playtime with this archetype. And the last card, okay, the semi-final card we have is Time Machine, and it's simply when a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you're allowed to special summon it to the field, the same field it was on, in the same battle position of when it was destroyed. An entirely unremarkable effect in today's game environment is pretty much outclassed by Pinpoint Guard and certain other battle phase interactions like this. And the reason we're talking about it here is because it actually also received a retrain in the form of Time Engine. This card is always treated as a Metalmorph card. Very nice to know, at least. If a monster as you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, target one of them, special summon it, then if it is a level 5 or higher machine monster and you have another Metalmorph trap or on your field or in your graveyard, you can destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible, then you can inflict damage to them equal to the summoned monster's original attack. Yeah, it's definitely an upgrade to Time Machine, that's pretty much all I can say about here. Yeah, it can be a decent burn, but I usually wouldn't run more than one because you usually want to activate it when you're finishing someone off, and yeah, the burn can be significant, but it's usually best used to finish off limping opponents, so that's why I definitely wouldn't max out on it unless I mean, yeah, it's always searchable due to it being a Metalmorph card for some reason, but yeah, since it's searchable, there's absolutely no need to max out on it, but it's still a decent choice in the deck. And time for the grading. It's been a while since I graded. Alright, so in terms of consistency, the fact that a search card for Metalmorph card exists is actually a huge boon for a lot of battle phase oriented decks, and of course this archetype lives and dies by it. And also the monsters are fairly searchable as well, even Red Eyes with them being the most searchable one due to it belonging to 2 archetypes at this point. So I will give them a generous 2 out of 3. Power is a definite 3 out of 3 due to the fact that it's based around one of the most powerful cards from the 90s, so yeah, I'll definitely be generous here and give them a 3 out of 3. In terms of comeback ability, it's pretty much a 1 out of 3 because if you shut them out very early on, there's pretty much no way for them to get back from the beatdown, which pretty much tends to be the case with overly aggressive decks like this one. Protection exists in form of Enhanced Metalmorph, that being the most relevant form of protection, but it is a strong form of protection. for this kind of archetype, so I will be generous and give them a 2 out of 3 here. And as for the versatility, well, the spell card makes Metalmorph traps a bit more splashable, only to a slight degree in some other various decks. But in terms of, but other than that, there is literally no other synergies I can think of, so that's why I'm gonna give them a 1 out of 3 in terms of versatility here as well. And that pretty much does this archetype analysis. You know, I was actually debating whether to include this in an archetype rematch volume as part of the Red Eyes archetype. And I ultimately decided to have them treated as a separate archetype because that's what they essentially are. And yeah, I never expected a comeback to archetype analysis to be with this kind of archetype. I was actually expecting them to print one of the anime-only archetypes from like Vrains, like the drones, the Storm Riders, or Armatos Legio. I really hope that I'm back here the next time with the archetype analysis reviewing the Armatos Legio archetype. That was one of my favorite anime-only archetypes from Vrains. So yeah, that does it for today's archetype analysis. Stay tuned for the next one. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Rizworks and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And I started doing my usual outro. I'm clearly out of touch. I haven't done this in a while. But anyway, let's redo that again. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Rizworks and updates. Have yourselves a great day. And I will see you all next time.